doing, Met fans? Welcome back to another edition of the Terry Collins Show, presented by Tunnel the Towers, supporting America's greatest heroes. Donate just $11 per month by going to t2t.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org. I'm John Arezzi. Are the 2025 New York Mets tearing the soul from your body? Well, join the club. On today's show, we'll discuss this incredible free fall and what it could mean for the rest of the season and beyond with two of the best. On our leadoff segment, we're going to bring on both SNY's Andy Martino and Newsday's Laura Albanese. Both will join us to give us their insider views on the New York Mets, as they've had a horrific August, but the last couple of days maybe showed a little sign of hope. Later in the show, Terry Collins, Jay Horwitz, and Andy will discuss another month of August, but this one had far more satisfying results. It was the 2015 Mets Ball Club that were on their way to their last World Series appearance. We'll have another heartwarming story from the Tunnel to Towers Foundation as well. But let's get right into the leadoff and bring on SNY TV baseball insider covering the Mets and Yankees, Andy Martino, and Newsday's beat reporter Laura Albanese, and both of them are also analysts on SNY's Baseball Night in New York. Andy and Laura, welcome back to the Terry Collins Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
John, are you okay? That was a rough opening for you. Tearing the soul.
It was. Let me tell you, I wasn't doing very well. Well, I haven't been doing very well since June 13th, if you kind of go back that far, which was when all this started. But the month of August has been incredibly anxiety-ridden because I just started flashing back, and I'm a lot older than you guys. And so I went to my first game in 66. I was at the World Series in 69. And in 66 also, Andy, which we'll get into a little bit later, I was able to see the Beatles at Shea Stadium. So that was a
second time.
Second time, yes.
August 23rd. Show? How about
August 23rd, yes. I was in Shea, and my first game was July 3rd, 66. So anyway, I was bitten by I was bitten by the Mets bug that year, and so I started just kind of analyzing. All right, I played hooky from school in 1970, saw them get their World Series rings, and then they kind of were doing well, and they collapsed. And even the year Gil Hodges passed away, they were close. And then the 73 year where, the ball went through Felix Mignon's leg in the first game of the World Series, and then Seaver wasn't pitched on the right day. They could have beat Oakland, and then they trade Seaver, and then every year something else. Every year
you're going back through the whole catalog of misery.
Well, that's what it is being a Mets fan. You
just rewound 50 years. Oh my goodness! Let me ask you something, if you don't mind. And this is a real question from your with someone that has that perspective that you have. If the Mets don't make the playoffs this year, is it one of those? Is it a collapse, or is it just kind of like a shitty season?
Absolutely. It's a monumental collapse.
It is. Okay. All right. I was asking if you would
right up there. It's up there. It's like, this is like, because they break your heart in a different way every year. They really, really do. And but last year was different because last year was kind of a surprise. We weren't expecting much. It was kind of a rebuild year, and then all the magic happened. And even though they didn't get to the World Series, it was a satisfying year because it was like no one expected it, and this was magical. It was like 2015, and 86, of course, was incredible until you got to the playoffs, and then it was like that anxiety set in. I'm at Shea Stadium in Game 6. And I see on the scoreboard, congratulations, Red Sox. And I'm there with, some business associates. I had season tickets that year. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. I'm not going to see the Mets. I'm not going to see the Red Sox celebrate on Shea Stadium. And my partners were like, we're not going. You want to go, you go. And then of course the miracle happened, and I was happy, But 88. What happened in that season. And so, I could go back every year. 1999, the walk-off walk in Atlanta, and 2000, the Subway Series where they really could have won. They were close. But so every year. So this year was kind of like, I don't know how much more I could take at 68 years old. This is just I don't know how much more of this I can take.
Are you so the Mets have already ripped the soul from your body this year? Are you saying they're going to finish off the body itself by the end of the season? Are you're done? Like
toast.
This will kill you.
I'm toast. I'm kind of like, but see, I'll come back. That's the thing. You come back. It's like
they always make you come back. The belief is
not over yet. You know, they might just be in the wild card series after all.
Well, as I was talking to you a little bit offline before Laura joined, and this is kind of I'm going to start off with some good, and we go to the bad, the ugly a little bit. But I really felt that the last 48 hours, the Mets have been sipping from the fountain of youth. From Saturday's debut of remarkable performance by Nolan McLean. And then yesterday, hanging out with the kids and rolling down hills with the little leaguers, and it seemed like they were drinking from the fountain of youth. And even Juan Soto, when the kids were chanting, Soto shuffled, and he did it for these kids. I was like, wow. I mean, and I wake up this morning and I'm kind of like, all right, I'm not, I'm not ready to put the bag over my head right now, but we still got 40 games to go, so we'll see where it goes. I'm going to get right into it, and thank you for hearing. See, this is kind of really, for me, it's really therapeutic.
I can see that. Yeah. We're here for you.
I'm talking to the voices of reason here with you two. Outsiders. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we all have our emotions when it comes to this franchise and this team. It's been quite a crazy month. So I'm going to start off with this. Obviously, the weekend validated my own Mets schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
It's suicide to elation that maybe we have hope. Anxiety level for the team all month off the chart. So I'm calling upon both of you as the voices of reason to give your assessments on where the New York Mets are today as we record this on the 18th of August. Andy first, and then Laura.
I don't know if you're going to like what I have to say here, John, if you had me penciled in as the voice of me. I think I am. I try to be a voice of reason, but I think it's reasonable to think that the following. The Mets might well miss the playoffs this year. I think it's a coin toss, and I think there are things trending in the wrong direction with the pitching staff. But regardless of whether they miss this year, the franchise is going in the right direction. And that's what I suppose you could console yourself with if they miss. I mean, it's just really like, are the Reds going to get hot enough to overtake the Mets? That's just, maybe they will, maybe they won't, right? I was talking to Mike Sarbaugh, who the Mets third base coach, of course, who was on Terry Francona's staff in Cleveland for many years. And he said, Tito knows how to pace a team appropriately, where he doesn't have his foot all the way on the gas in the first half, and then he knows how to really put it on full throttle down the stretch run. He's so experienced with that. This is not a guy you want to be competing against in a situation like this, a team managed by Terry Francona. Having said that, the Mets are clearly better roster than the Reds, and I think they can hold them off. But the way we've seen not just the rotation, but a guy like Ryan Helsley pitch, that's a real concern, because it's like, oh, you know what? They don't have the rotation, but David Stearns planned around that by bringing in a super bullpen. Well, if the super bullpen doesn't perform that way, then you really are screwed. And that's regardless of what happened on Saturday and Sunday, those kinds of things are still a concern. So I really think it's a coin toss whether they're in the playoffs or not this year, and meaning that they could win the World Series or be home in October. I really think it's a variance of reasonable outcomes are that wide.
Wow, that is truly the epitome of what following this team is. It's like either you're going to be the absolute happiest you've ever been, or you're going to be absolutely disconsolate.
That's right.
I do think they squeak into the playoffs. I do think the talent level is, again, we've been hearing Carlos Mendoza say over and over again, it's like, they're better than this, they're better than this. And I mean, nobody really wants to hear that, because what matters is wins and losses and actual production. But they are better than this. Ryan Helsley is a little bit of an enigma to me. Like, I was going like, is this like the Sonny Gray curse of, having trouble, kind of throwing in New York? I don't necessarily think so. He doesn't give me that impression. I think he's just kind of hit like a little bit of a difficult stretch here. So I think, Helsley will probably bounce back. And that's going to be key. I keep saying over and over again, when we were looking at this bullpen at the beginning of the season, people really underestimated how much losing AJ Minter hurt. And I think having kind of that bridge to Edwin Diaz is important. The fact that, the Mets really, really had to win on Saturday and Mendoza went after Nolan McLean, Gregory Soto, Edwin Diaz, 2 innings, kind of indicates to me, right now, this is who he's trusting in these situations. So that bullpen is going to be key. You got to like what you saw from Clay Holmes yesterday, just in terms of being able to find his groove again. And they're hitting again. And the biggest thing, the one thing that does give me promise that they're going to make it into the wild card is Francisco Lindor hitting again. He spent 30 games hitting below 200. And then over the last 5 games, suddenly he's producing something. So when Francisco Alvarez does well, the rest of the lineup follows. Even if you look at Juan Soto's home runs, most of them are with no one on base. The table wasn't being set for him a lot of the time. So if they can set that table, if that top of the rotation, at that top of the lineup can actually produce, then yes, I do think they make it into the wild card.
Well, Francisco Alvarez might be out for the season, though. That's one thing we're waiting on.
Yeah, Alvarez.
By the time our listeners hear this, we will have probably there will be information on that will be out. But as we sit here, we're waiting on whether or not how serious that is. So
Andy, do catchers need their thumbs?
I hear that. I was a little league catcher, Laura, so I can confirm through personal experience that we need our thumbs in that position. So yes, we do.
And it's really sad because he had finally, after the demotion and him staying in the minors, coming back, it was like, all right, the guy's kind of seems to have fixed his problems. He's hitting, his defense is better, and it was kind of like we're finally seeing this kid that we saw a few years ago. When he debuted, but now it's kind of like he seems to be snake bit a little bit. And I hope, I hope it isn't bad news, but I think, after seeing him on the bases yesterday and second base, and I was like, it brings back, it's happy. And then of course, then you crash and then now what are we going to do?
Unless you're waiting on that. I will say, this is not a slight to Alvarez, but they're in good position with positional depth. You generally only use one catcher in the postseason. And I think, you're all right with Luis Torrens, who's a winning player, being your postseason catcher, honestly. So, that's getting ahead of ourselves. Obviously, we don't have the update on Alvarez, but I'm saying the worst case scenario, because of who they have backing him up, I don't think it's one of those, Pete Alonso is out for the season. This isn't that because of the depth that the Mets have at catcher. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. He's defensively very, very good, and the offense is not really there, but he's a steady hand behind the plate for sure. I want to go over the weekend. Obviously, Saturday, the debut of Nolan McLean with his exhilarating performance, and then Sunday, out with the little leaguers, having fun with the kids and maybe reliving their youth. And when they were all little leaguers, it seemed to have a relaxing effect on the team on Sunday. Also, they look loose. I want to get your take on the weekend's youth impact from the debut of this stud pitcher who people immediately took to. We were desperate. We were starving for a win and starving for some youthful energy in the rotation. And then Sunday's activities, and how do you think that loosened the team up? First, Laura on this one, then Andy.
Yeah, I always hate to overvalue something like vibes or chemistry or whatever, but the fact of the matter is having somebody like that on the mound, like Nolan McLean, really did have this energizing jolt around Citi Field. I remember we were doing Carlos Mendoza's pregame press conference, and he almost sounded sad. This was a manager who genuinely seems flummoxed as to why his team is struggling in certain situations. And then post-game, he was so energized and he was so excited about Nolan McLean. And he was just like, that was incredible. And you felt that around the dugout. They kept putting Nolan McLean up on the Citi Field scoreboard, and you have Tyrone Taylor pointing at it and go, look, there's your face out there. And everyone's excited. I never want to devalue the idea that so much of baseball is psychological. You can get into your own head. You can start overthinking things. And to have a guy like this, to have that youthful jolt, to be able to essentially be a stopper in your major league debut, that's exciting. that focuses you a little bit more in the right direction, as opposed to focusing internally on, oh my God, I have to put everything on my shoulders, because if I don't produce at this one at bat, then everything's going to go haywire. It was palpable. And then to kind of see them, I was looking at social media, all the things that they were doing with the Little League kids. You were talking about Juan Soto doing the Soto shuffle, and the guys just recalling what it was like to play Little League and how much they enjoyed it. You saw it in Mark Vientos, how loose he looked at the plate and how he was able to produce. It did feel like the youthful injection, it made an impact. And it's little things. It can be little things that change your mindset and kind of change the course of even a season. And who knows, this could be one of those things.
Sure. I think this definitely, no, I mean, I don't mean to downplay it. I think anyone who's seen the Mets play regularly this year knows that there's that hard to define group energy / chemistry just hasn't been here this year to the extent that it was in 2024. You can see it. It's just not there. And you have a group of players that I think they lost a few key guys vibes wise in Iglesias and Severino. For legitimate baseball reasons, but still, those things affect the group energy. JD Martinez talking hitting with guys after games last year. There are some things that are missing, and then there's the integration of Juan Soto into Lindor's team, which is there's been a lot of reasons why the magic hasn't been there in a social way, the way it was last year. But these things, it's also easy to kind of roll your eyes at a statement like I just made, because you'd be like, yeah, if I rattle off 10 in a row, you're going to see some chemistry. Like, it's sort of like a chicken and egg thing a little bit, but it hasn't been there yet. And so a weekend of fun, sure, at a time where that's important, that for them to be staying loose and having fun. You mentioned a guy like Vientos looking loose. Obviously, it's been very hard for him. The reporting on that and others put out there about his availability at the trade deadline, the fact that he hasn't been playing after being seen as a future star. It'd be great for a guy like that to be able to show up to the ballpark and have a little bit of fun. Soto doing the shuffle thing. There were months this season where it's like, where's the shuffle? So that's been back a while, but it's nice to see that continue. I think if this weekend can trigger some of that stuff, great, because it hasn't been there.
Yeah, the Soto thing also, the fact that he did it for the kids when they were chanting, Soto shuffle. I mean, that was kind of cool because it was very animated. It was kind of like what you've seen in the past. You haven't seen it this year. You just haven't.
He's just such a big kid, too. I mean, he had so much fun. I watched him all year with the Yankees last year, having so much fun.
Yeah.
And he's a 26-year-old kid. And, like, he's so different from where he is in life from Lindor. Lindor's married, 3 kids. Responsible guy. He's only 4 years older, but it's like Soto lives with his parents, plays video games, is a kid. And so I think that having him be able to indulge that around other kids is probably a really nice thing for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Genuinely enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember when we were talking to Aaron Boone last year about Soto, it was like, what's one of the things that stands out to you the most? Because here's this generational player. And he's like, oh, he just really has fun. He studies and he is a student of the game, but he has fun playing the game. And I do think that is a really big part of what makes him effective, is that he enjoys it. And you can also see it sometimes when he almost trolls the opposing team a little bit. He has fun with them. He likes the back and forth. He likes the competition level. And I think seeing that side of Soto is probably helpful for this team.
Do you think it's been a difficult transition for him as you take a look at Soto now in August? And, he's even gotten the nickname by some people of Juan Solo because he's hitting solo home runs. I mean, and he's kind of it's kind of an enigma to watch him because, we've all seen him over the course of his career and the animation. It just kind of seemed like there's still something a little off, whether it's chemistry or integration with the team. He does have those quirky smiles and he does, challenge the opposing pitcher, and you could see flashes of it, but it's not prominent in his performance. So do you think it's just kind of still getting used to this and the dynamic of the team? And because when he's on and when he's still going to finish probably with 30-30 this season.
Yeah. Right.
So I'd like to get your assessments, both of you, on what's deeply going on here, if you have any, even
Yeah,
guesses.
sure. No, I think it's out there on the surface, like you described, John. It's an adjustment. I can tell you, and I'm sure Laura was there too with the Yankees last year, that it just fit him like a glove, and he fit them. And Aaron Judge was a great leader for him, and he just got great personal chemistry between the two of them. And what he likes about the way the Yankees do business is, as much as he's animated, he doesn't like all the let's pose for a selfie, hold a big flip flop, stick our tongues out. He's a little bit more like, when we're on the Yankees, we celebrate, but then it's business. And he's kind of business that way. So I think that was maybe more his natural, definitely more his natural vibe. But that doesn't mean that he hasn't had a lot of fun here and he's been very lucky to have Starling Marte here. Yeah. You remember that one earlier in the season when Soto wouldn't go to do that selfie thing by the dugout, and Marte smacked him on the head really hard. And he was like, "No, come over here." And Soto's like, "No." It's like he's bringing him along. Marte is, and yeah, it's just he made a decision. It was a very close decision between the Mets and the Yankees, this close. And there's been an adjustment period, no doubt. He's got a lot of time to adjust, though. We'll all be really old by the time he's no longer a Met. So he's got time.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. We'll all be
very different degrees of very old, but all of us very old, nonetheless.
Very, very old. Yeah. Point. No, but yeah. I kind of agree with Andy's assessment here. I think and I do think he's going to acclimate, because when you do talk to Soto, he does have kind of that wry sense of humor, kind of like that dry humor. He does have fun. He does enjoy it. But the Mets are a completely different sort of quote unquote fun than the Yankees are. And I mean, going back to Starling Marte, that relationship I think has been really, really important, in addition to the fact that Marte is having a really good season, somewhat quietly. So doing that and kind of having somebody like that in the clubhouse, but even when he was doing the bottle flip game and getting into stuff like that, and you can kind of see the childlike joy that he brings when he's feeling it. It's going to take time. It's always going to take time. And the fact of the matter is, the onus of the $765 million contract, as confident as you are, as much fun as you might have in a game, the idea that you are the highest paid North American athlete right now, that is going to have, there's a burden there. Probably the Subway Series when he was at Yankee Stadium and he's getting all these vitriolic boos and all these other things. Part of him didn't mind playing the troll, but part of him also I think does feel wow, this has an impact. I have an impact. And it's just going to take a little bit of time to get more comfortable with that. And I frankly think that's fine.
Yeah. It's a human process. And to your point, Laura, that's a great point about the contract itself. In relationship to this issue with Soto, a friend of mine who knows Albert Pujols pretty well told me a story recently where it's he asked Pujols during that first year, this friend of mine did, about with the Angels when he had the biggest contract in the game at that time, how's it going? What is this like? And Pujols is it's awful. It's so hard to be that guy with the top number. It's well, I mean, let's take a pause for a second and say how much I wouldn't mind having that problem, but the pressure is real to be that guy in that spotlight. And it's something that Soto's had to live with. I think you have these negotiations. He's he's the hot free agent for a couple of months last winter. You're having these meetings in rapid succession. Then it's a shotgun marriage. He talked to Steve Cohen twice before agreeing to marry him for 15 years. It's this huge number. And it's then all of a sudden he appreciated the way that recruiting process went. And I don't think Soto would be a Met if Cohen hadn't brought Alex Cohen, Josh Cohen, and Ralph Garcia, grandpa, to that meeting in LA. I've heard from Boris and Soto that was a factor for them, that personal familial touch. But those things are weighing all those things in a hurry. And like I said, you're going to these shotgun marriages and then you have to get to know each other. So it's not easy on a human level. Especially
at 26.
Yeah.
Right. So, we just hope that as a fan, you hope that he's happy. And even that little bottle flipping thing, that was it gave us, as fans, wow, look at that. He's having fun, So we want him to have fun, and we want him to embrace, because we're all embracing him in such a way that we're going to be with this player for so many years and his unlimited abilities to break all kinds of records with the franchise. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, and maybe the last month of the season he'll have a couple of these great Juan Soto moments, and maybe a walk-off or two, or who knows. And if he gets into the playoffs, who knows what can happen. And then of course we got a lot of years left with him, which may not be the case for Pete Alonso. Another bit of joy for Met fans this past week was him breaking the all-time record, and it was a magical moment. It was an exciting night, and what was also cool was the ceremony with him getting that wonderful painting by Steve Cohen, and Howie Rose, while he was talking to Pete, asked him if he'd like to stay here for the rest of his career, and I thought that was a little odd. I really did, because I think that Alonso needs to be here, and then you come into the business part of it. So what is your assessment now after him breaking the record and seeing, even Howie's comments to publicly on field with Alonso, would you like to stay here the rest of your career? So what is your assessment today on if that will happen in the off season? I'd love to get both of your thoughts on it.
Laura, do you want to go first?
Sure. I thought it was really interesting that, he breaks this record, and then in the post-game scrum, he's like, okay, yeah, I would like to be a Met forever, but that's up to, Steve and David. And that was very pointed. Just kind of like,
hey, didn't say like something like they have to come to the table or something. He said something which was like, wow, that's kind of strong.
Yeah, he was like, I think they said something along the lines of, oh, they have to step up or something like that.
Yeah.
And I do think it was important to him to come back and have this franchise record. I think that was definitely one of the motivating factors for coming back. He wasn't really thinking about it during the season, but he did mention it in the off season that he would have liked to have his name up there. And yeah, he does want to be a Met for life, but I don't think he wants to give like this excruciating. No, of course he doesn't want to give this like huge discount. He's got a kid on the way. He is the heartbeat of this franchise. The way that the fans respond to Pete Alonso, it's really singular. I mean, they like Francisco Lindor in a certain way, but there's like the sort of like kind of like affability, goofiness to Pete Alonso that I think, the fans tend to embrace, in addition to the fact that he's just like a really good power hitting first baseman that's been here his entire career. So obviously, this probably could be his last season as a New York Met. I think both parties have an interest in a reunion, but I don't necessarily think that the negotiations will be easy.
They certainly weren't easy last time. They're bruising for both parties, and it ended up in a decent short-term resolution. And I think this is the path to Alonso remaining a Met, would be more short-term deals. I could see him staying for years if he's willing to keep taking 1 and 2 year deals. Honestly, I don't see why the organization. I don't see how the organization's stance on investing in that profile of player deep into his 30s would change with another year passing. Yeah. But he was. I think it's important to emphasize that things changed. Like, he was a goner. When the Mets signed Jesse Winker was it January, February? I think it was January when they signed Winker. Anyway, that day, I can tell you that Mets high-ranking brass, so they were all just like, Pete's gone. We're giving his money to Winker and then Minter. He's out. And then when he was willing to sign for so much less than what the initial expectations, it was like, okay, fine. If that's what it's going to cost, take him back for a year. And so, again, with the player being a year older, what would change? That's I think what we're looking at to set up this next round of Pete's free agency.
The only thing I would say is that, I feel like this year is just so much better than it was last year. And the evolution of him as a hitter in both the physical way, but also the cerebral way, the fact that he spent the offseason going, well, I'm hitting my 30s. My physical talents are going to decline. So let me see how I can approach at bats so I can extend this for as long as possible. I do think that's something of a factor. When you're talking about the profile of player, a power hitting first baseman like that can be a really steep decline once you hit like your mid 30s or so. So that's going to be interesting. Probably, if he's willing to do these short-term deals, fine. he has a plan in place. He wants to play until his age 40 season so he can be around for his kids while they start, kind of like doing things on their own. So, I mean, that's a pretty long time from now. What is that? He's 30, 31, so 9 years. That it might be a hard sell to have him as a Met that entire time.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great point. I think that David Stearns always preferred to have Alonso on the team in 2025. It was the 40-year-old Alonso that scared him, or the 37 or 36, what have you. So, yeah, if he really is in the league at 40, it may not be here, but that's a problem for way more years and off seasons down the line to discuss. And I agree with you, Laura. That, it's important to point out the adjustments that he's made. And the thing about Alonso is that for a guy who's got natural power, is not a natural fielder, is not a natural base runner, all these other things, he's done a lot of work to become serviceable in a lot of other ways. He's a smart enough base runner where he's able to make the most out of the speed tool that God gave him. The defense is and I don't mean this to make fun of him at all. I mean it as a compliment. It may be a belly flop. It may be a weird way to get the play done, but the out is generally recorded. He has figured out a way to overperform his defensive tools because he cares and because he works at it and he wants to be a complete player. And these are the things that could help to serve him as he gets deeper into his 30s for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I've been routinely impressed by his defense. He does not have the range that a lot of first basemen have, but there's the number of times that I've seen, even when they were trying to get Mark Vientos, who obviously struggled at third base, he would save all these errant throws just by his extension, by seeing the ball and kind of being able to pick it off. This stuff is not necessarily recorded when you to look at defensive metrics in a way. So, the statistics or the metrics might say, okay, this is a below average first baseman. That's not what the eye test tells me necessarily. Sure, the range is not there, but there are other facets of his game, and he takes it super seriously. So, I mean, when I look at Pete Alonso, I'm like, okay, that's very, very serviceable at first base when maybe he doesn't necessarily have the inherent talent to be that serviceable at first base.
Some good points there. I know that for the fan base that if there is a divorce between this organization and Pete Alonso, it's not going to be taken very kindly by the fans, especially after everything that Pete has done. So you hope, and you don't know, and he's not getting an 8-year contract offer. He's not even probably getting a 5-year contract offer, but 3 years, 4 years, maybe with some options built in. I think. Obviously Pete wants to stay. I think Cohen maybe have to interject at the bottom line and say, let's do it or not do it. But that's going to be another point of contention after the season is over.
I do think, John, and to your point, I'm bringing up Cohen. I think that was misunderstood a little in the offseason by some of the public in the Stearns and Cohen dynamic in this. They're pretty aligned with not seeing Alonso, seeing him and not seeing him in the ways that we've been discussing. It's not like David Stearns was like, I don't do sluggers. And Cohen's like, sign him. The fans love him. Cohen trusts his president of baseball operations to make sound decisions that Cohen himself is not equipped to make. He's not a baseball guy in that way, right? And was totally on board, 100% on board with letting Alonso walk last year after they signed Winker and Minter. And it's like I said before, he just came back to the fold. It wasn't the fans chanting, "We want Pete" at the Fan Fest. It wasn't the owner being more emotional than the president of baseball ops. It was just that the deal finally made sense. But if fans are counting on Cohen ultimately yelling at Stearns, just sign the guy. The fans love him. That's not how their dynamic
that
works.
Won't happen.
He trusts Stearns. Yeah.
No, you don't become a billionaire by thinking that way. In really emotional, sentimental way.
Yeah. That's why I'm not a billionaire either. I make decisions on emotions.
That's right. That's the one thing holding me back from billionaire status.
Yes,
if I was
exactly.
a little less emotional, I would be.
Yeah.
I should be a billionaire then. Never mind.
Yeah. I'm going deep in another direction. I like that.
I wanted to get back to Nolan McLean and his call up, which a lot of people have talked about. Why wasn't it sooner? Or bringing up Brandon Sproat. This is for either of you. Service time quite possibly could have played a part in it. Now, clean up when they did didn't that ensure that now he has rookie status for the 2026 year? And with the service time, could there possibly be a bigger reason? I've heard, and I don't know how, I haven't dove very deep into it. I heard that there's a draft pick compensation. Let's say if a rookie wins Rookie of the Year, or if a rookie finishes within third place of the MVP or Cy Young, then the Mets get a first-round draft pick, extra first-round draft pick. So what is the status here of maybe that was a reason why he wasn't brought up when he was? Because right now he is now in short status for 2026.
Yeah, you just summarized that well, John. That is in the new CBA. Where
really? That's good.
If they're trying to, it was an intended incentive regarding service time manipulation and trying to disincentivize service time manipulation. So if you bring a player up at the beginning of the season and I don't have all the fine print in front of me, but yeah, if he's eligible for Rookie of the Year,
43, 45 games,
rookie status
whatever
year.
it is.
Yeah. And August 15th was the day that the Mets could have called. The Mets were assured that McLean would have rookie status next year. Miraculously, August 15th was also the day that he was player development-wise completely ready to start in the big leagues. So it's just aligned.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
So
what a coincidence that was.
Yeah.
Magical.
How about that?
I mean, it's certainly possible. I personally think it's somewhat absurd considering how much in free fall the Mets were. But it did work out very, very well. That being said, I mean, McLean, when you look at him, he hasn't had all that much time in the minor league, so I can understand why there was like a little bit of just like, hey, let's give it a second, let him marinate a little bit more. It's the difference between making his debut 2 weeks prior and like now, then sure. Then you just wait the time and see what he can do next year, and maybe you get an extra draft pick out of it. Who knows?
Hey, I think this stuff makes sense. For example, I will go to my grave saying Brody Van Wagenen did the wrong thing by breaking camp with Alonso on the team in 2019. And he was lauded for it because it's like, you could have had a whole extra year of him. These are the rules. If they delayed him, I think it was 2 weeks under the rules at that time, we wouldn't have even had a problem with Pete Alonso's free agency at all. So I don't see any problem with following the rules to create the most advantageous service time situation. And in fact, I'm one of those few in the media that will look down on a team for promoting a guy too soon. So there.
And the Mets haven't really had a lot of first round draft picks recently either. So that's another incentive for them.
That's true.
Yeah.
When's the last time they had a first round draft pick?
Well, that's a good sign right? So that's a good point. If the organization continues where it wants to be, and when David Stearns was interviewing for the job with Cohen, he said, one of my goals here is that I want the Mets to be a playoff team or just miss every single year. And that's so far in the first 2 years playing out. And that means you're never going to pick high in the draft. So chances to do so are valuable.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting stuff. Well, when it comes now down to the schedule, when you look at the schedule, the stretch of consecutive games now, the Mets are now embarking on 16 games in a row without a day off, and only 3 days off from now until the end of the season, which is definitely going to mean probably a 6-man rotation. And do you think that we will see Brandon is it Sprout or Sprout?
Sprout. Yeah.
Sprout. The way it's spelled.
Brandon
Sprout.
I always said Sprout. What do I know?
Yeah. Is he part of that mix, you think, for this particular season? And how do you think the Mets will navigate their rotation from now to the end of this regular season?
I think he's definitely in the mix because, he was somewhat in the conversation, even though I think Nolan McLean was the clear favorite in terms of being brought up for this last start. The guy, he hits triple digits with this fastball. I think it would be interesting to see, but I also think it's going to be necessary to see. This rotation for, a few bright spots here and there, it's not built in terms of durability, in terms of like the number of innings pitched to essentially withstand this stretch, this stretch run. So yeah, we see Brandon Sprout. And also, man, this is going to tax the bullpen a lot. And this is already a highly taxed bullpen that we've seen holes in. Sure, you have Tyler Rogers. Sure, you have Ryan Helsley, but it's very much a question mark. And everybody knows the more tired your bullpen gets, the less effective it gets. And right now we're looking at some really, really tired arms.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's hard to say how the Mets are going to script out the rotation for the rest of the way too, because it struggled so much. It's already Montas. That's a big issue roster-wise that Montas is in the bullpen, because the Mets have been using, speaking to your point, Laura, about the tired relievers, the Mets have been using one bullpen spot, obviously, as that shuttle back and forth between Syracuse, options, DFAs. You know, what Montas does in the bullpen, because he's not optionable, is clog it up. So even if they were to move Holmes to the bullpen, which, by the way, last night's start certainly made a case for Holmes' continuance as a 5-inning pitcher rather than a reliever. He did fine, and he would have gone deeper into the game if Lindor had made one play. But so having said that, if you wanted to move Holmes to the bullpen, you really can't, because Montas is already stuck in that spot, unless now you get into really tough decisions. If the next time they have to make a roster move, it would be, do you option Reed Garrett? Well, do you really have that freedom to do that, given how sometimes you need them? Some of you guys have struggled. Do you DFA Ryan Stanek? That's another one. I understand he's way down on the totem pole, but he was good in the playoffs last year. Maybe you're okay going forward without Stanek, but that's not like DFAing Dickie Lovelady. No offense to Dickie, but that's a real decision. Stanek's not supposed to be one of these guys on that DFA bubble. So there's not a lot of flexibility. There's not a lot they can do other than cross their fingers and hope that the guys they acquired to pitch well. They understand how unbelievably poorly their rotation has performed for quite a while now, and they understand that if that doesn't change, they're not going to go far in October. So it's about the performance of these guys. That's all it comes down to, really. There's nothing else. There's nothing really they can do post trade deadline. I mean, I agree that Sproat will probably be here at some point, so that's one thing.
But yeah, the Frankie Montas thing is definitely a conundrum for them. I mean, the 2-year deal, he just hasn't been the pitcher that they needed, and now it's adding an extra layer of complication to an already complicated situation. So I'm curious to see. DFAing Stanek would be tough going into the playoffs, especially considering how much mileage is on those arms. So I don't know how they're going to necessarily navigate that, and that's why I'm not Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns.
$34 million for Frankie, wasn't it, over 2 years?
Yeah. He's got the player option.
$34 million.
I imagine he will exercise.
Yes.
What you think?
Yeah.
That's when even back in the spring, I was like, boy, that doesn't make sense, Should
have gotten Severino.
Right. Or Quintana.
Come
back.
Quintana,
He was like wanting to come back. And
the Brewers and the Mets basically traded Quintana for Montas this offseason. I mean, they didn't deal with one another, but, they swapped those two players. And I think it's pretty clear to see who benefited from which of those decisions.
Very much so. I mean, wow. Well, following up on the rotation and some of the young guns that are getting ready to make their long-awaited debuts for the New York Mets, we got one already, and it's kind of reminiscent to me of 2015 when the Mets had this incredible young studs that came in, DeGrom and Harvey and Noah and Steven Matz, and with the debut of McLean and with Sprout and Jonah Tong in the waiting room. And Jonah is the one that you're like, you're probably not going to see him this year. Probably not, or maybe you will, but
probably not.
Kind of gives us a long-term, like, wow, next year could be really, really cool if they can get these three kids in the rotation together and then make other strategic moves and then have
Christian Scott coming back next year too, John.
That's another one, right? So so there is kind of hope, and maybe this year it's kind of like this patchwork rotation and these arms, but this was Stearns. And I'd like to ask another question on that, on these kids. Was it Billy Epler that drafted these kids for the most part, that the Mets are now that are on the cusp?
Well, I think it's a good question. I think it's a good point. So I'm not saying this to be like a corrector. It was the scouting director who drafted them,
the scouting
under the different regimes. And what I mean by
under
that
the GM is under the GM.
And what I mean by that is I think we assign too much credit to any head of baseball operations. Oh, this is the Stearns effect. This is the Cashman effect. This is the Billy Epler. It's like these are all organizational successes and failures, right? And I think that there's this genius theory that's basically Moneyball's fault. That's 20 years old now, of like, You've got Stearns will do it. Stearns will this or better than Epler. Epler, it's like no, it takes a village in all cases. And yes, I'd have to go back and look. I know that McLean was drafted while Epler was GM. Epler himself had nothing to do with it. Drew Toussaint was the scouting director. And what I mean by that, so there's just a lot of hands. And you have a Mets team that, by the way, where would they be without Brody Van Wagenen in his trade for Edwin Diaz? So I think these things are all collaborations between multiple regimes, unless you're the Yankees and you've had the same regime for 30 years.
Yeah, but you get like, you get tagged with like it's the Stearns effect or the Stearns decision,
right?
Where, as you're
always
saying,
overstated.
There are layers of people who make recommendations, and that's when you, as the president of baseball operations and eventually owner, it's like that's your assessment. You get your information from the people you've hired to do those jobs.
Right.
So, and then, typically, it's Stearns' fault because he did this so I understand where you're coming from on that. But in the long term, when you look at that president of baseball operations and that philosophy and that strategy that Cohen has tasked Stearns with, this was kind of the way that they envisioned it anyway, is kind of develop, you have to, right now, let's be competitive and we'll get this piece or that piece or this piece. But the eventual goal was to develop these young arms and these prospects so then you can have a sustainable and somewhat affordable payroll.
Yeah,
that's right. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and I agree with Andy in terms of the genius effect, but these guys are responsible for picking the staff that actually makes these assessments. So it is all collaborative and it is all interesting. And no, it's not just David Stearns and it's not just Billy Epler. And maybe Brody Van Wagenen got a little bit of a tough rap sometimes.
He sure did. Yeah.
Wow.
He sure did. He look, like I said, he's contributed.
He did a lot.
And I actually think that he would have been a good GM if the team hadn't been sold. I think with some runway, I think he made some moves that looked much better stood the test of time than sometimes they did in the moment. What's funny about that? So we talk about. I think Sandy Alderson is a over the course of a long career a top-notch baseball executive. But he came in, he fired Brody on day one, and they were determined not to make any stupid trades like Van Wagenen did. And then they were the ones who traded Pete Crow Armstrong when it was the Kelnick one that never burned the Mets at all. Yep. So what the hell? These things are all just... It's so arbitrary sometimes.
Well, you talk to Zach Scott and be like, we didn't think Pete Crow Armstrong was going to be like that.
Yeah. And he's a smart... Zach Scott's a very smart guy. Also would have been a good smart, so whatever. I don't know how we got here, John. It's probably my fault. But anyway.
We've gone over it all today, and I appreciate both of your insights and expertise, and the fact that I'm talking as I started the show with the voices of reason, in my opinion, both of you. So thank you so much for that. And final question, I think we've answered in the beginning, but I want to hear it again. Will the New York, will Citi Field see postseason baseball in 2025?
I think so. I think they get in. I do not know how long they will be in the postseason, but I do think they squeak in.
I think Ryan Helsley is the key, and I think that they can. Please. I think that they can. No, sorry, but what I mean by that is I agree with Laura's assessment. Right now they have the rotation to get in, but not to go deep.
Right.
And that formula that I just described is reliant on the offense and the bullpen doing their share. So if a big get like Helsley continues to struggle like this, now I'm seeing a tough path into October.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. It's the bullpen is going to need to step it up more consistently. You can't be. I understand why Mendoza used his bullpen the way he did in the McLean game, but you can't be doing 2-inning Diaz saves to get there. That's not why they traded all those minor leaguers for relievers in July. So that's stop that. That set up. Bridges Diaz has got to click in if they want to make it.
I like it. In the beginning of the season, we're like, well, the key to this Mets season will be Ryan Helsley.
Who would have? Right, that's right. You said, okay, buddy. Good point. Yeah, and here we are.
I still think that they got to stop using the entrance until he kind of like he's not the closer. But no, there's two now. I'm like, all right, it's a little confusing, but like I don't think you can do that, and you got to get rid of whatever the sandal was in that dugout. You got to get rid of that. But it was
you don't like the mojo of the flip flop.
Oh, it's like, the OMG last year was cool and all of that, but this year it's like I don't even know what it is and what it signifies, and it's like just get rid of it.
Oh no, it's a chancla. So like in a lot of households, immigrant household, you have like a flip flop that your mom throws at you, and it magically finds you. And you get hit.
My mom used to throw like a Flintstones slipper at me.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that.
My grandparents were, but yeah, I remember getting stuff thrown at me. And my mom was always like, Italian family. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, Italian families. I mean, very volatile sometimes growing up, and I'd be afraid. You do something like once I broke a window. Playing baseball in my backyard, right? I had a pitch back and it bounced the wrong way and went through a window. So I was like, I'm going to get, the crap beaten out of me for this. And my mother was like, Johnny, come inside. I was like, no. I was like, you're going to hit me. She goes, I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to hit you. And so as I got closer, like scared puppy a little bit. I'm like, she goes, no, I'm not going to hit you. I'm going to kill you.
Oh, no.
The Italian family.
She didn't kill me, obviously, but it was okay. But yeah, I mean,
educational for me. I didn't know that that's what the flip flop did, Laura.
Me neither. Thank you, Laura.
That's who Starling Marte is to Juan Soto in Mets land, is the guy that throws the flip flop at the kid.
The chocolate.
So yeah,
it took me a second because even though I grew up with that, my family's Italian immigrants, but my best friend, she has Dominican immigrant parents, and she texts me immediately, and she is like, "That is la chancla," and I'm like, "Oh, that's right."
Wow, thank you for that, because I didn't know. So if it means something significant to these players, and keep it, whatever makes you feel comfortable and whatever brings that,
it's very large.
Magic it is very large.
It's becoming bigger.
Yeah.
It used to be anyway.
I thank you both as always, and I'll be up there. My nephew's birthday is August 28th. I'll be up there for that. And then, of course, for the Alumni Classic, I look forward to coming up there for that as well, and following TC around with get some content for the show. And so anyway, I hope to see you guys at Citi Field, and of course, bring you back here on a regular basis as we've had all season. And I thank you again for your insights.
All right, John. Thanks.
We'll see you at the ballpark.
All right. Yep. You got it. For me, that was amazing, great therapy session as a diehard Mets fan, and listening to the voices of reason with Andy Martino and Laura Albanese was great. Let's give you an update from our presenting sponsor, T2T. It was a tragedy that captured the attention of the country. A gunman walked into an office building in Manhattan last month and murdered New York City police officer Diderol Islam. Officer Islam left behind a pregnant wife and 2 children. Just days after the shooting, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation pledged financial assistance to the Islam family. Whenever a first responder dies in the line of action and leaves behind young children, Tunnel to Towers is there to support them. You can too, by helping the foundation on its mission to do good by donating $11 a month at t2t.org. That's T2T.org. And registration is open for one of the most popular and unforgettable 5Ks in the country. The 24th annual Tunnel to Towers Run Walk will take place on Sunday, September 28th in New York City. I know Terry Collins will be participating for the second consecutive year in that one. The event retraces the heroic footsteps of FDNY firefighter Stephen Siller. On September 11, 2001, the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel was closed for security reasons. Stephen left the car on the Brooklyn side, strapped on his firefighting gear, ran through the tunnel, and lost his life at the Twin Towers. His sacrifice was the impetus for the founding of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, and this year's race is capped now at 30,000 participants. So if you want to participate yourself, sign up now. Just go to t2t.org. And this year's post-run celebration will feature multi-platinum recording artist and country music star Chris Janson. Janson is a Grand Ole Opry member and an award-winning performer. He's also a dedicated supporter of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. You can get more information about the run and Jansen's concert at t2t.org. That's T to number 2T.org. We will return with Terry Collins, Jay Horwitz, and Andy Martino after this word on behalf of T2T.
My name is Lisa Tuzzolo. I am the wife of NYPD Sergeant Paul Tuzzolo, who was killed in the line of duty on November 4th, 2016. I think there are many reasons why it's important to give back to Tunnel to Towers. They've given me financial support to move forward and the ability to be home with my children and not worry about how the next bill is going to be paid. Tunnel to Towers. Let us do good.
As we do each and every month here on the Terry Collins Show, we're taking a look back at 10 years ago, Tears of Joy, that wonderful 2015 season. And today, we have a couple of special guests to reminisce about August 2015. And we'd like to welcome Jay Horwitz, the VP of Alumni Relations for the New York Mets, and SNY's Andy Martino as well. Guys, welcome.
My pleasure.
Thanks for having us, John.
Well, it's great to have. And of course, Terry, August of 2015 was a magical month for the New York Mets, and I want to get all of your opinions of that last week of July was just chaotic. It was everything that happened. It was Wilmer Flores crying. It was the trade deadline. It was bringing in some new pieces. It was losing a couple of games after a big delay with a rain delay. It was chaotic. And then there was the first weekend of August, and it seemed like the sun came out and shined on the New York Mets for the rest of the season. So give me your recollections of the week after that trade deadline when things start to settle down a little bit and the team just took off like a rocket ship.
What date you talking about, John? After the sweep of Washington?
It was right after that trade deadline, right after you guys got Cespedes, and that last weekend going into that first weekend of August, actually.
Mm-hmm. So I just did a podcast with Wilmer the other day here when the Giants were in. Great time reminiscing. And funny story, Wilmer's married, he has a son, name is Wilmer. Expected another son, name is Wilmer. His father's name is Wilmer, his brother's name is Wilmer. I said, Wilmer, what happens if you have a baby girl? Leave that up to my wife.
Wilmer.
But I had a great day. It was a great, after that night, I think Andy was on when we supposedly traded Wilmer and Wheeler for Carlos Gomez, and
yep.
Terry was no trade. I went to Wilmer's locker. He's sitting in his locker crying again. And he says, Wilmer, what do you want to do? He said, bringing guys on. I'm never hid from anything. First week, I had just a fun time talking to Wilmer, reminiscing, a great time. And that day, Terry, for me, when he came around after he hit the home run in the 12th inning that Friday night, when he patted the Mets on his chest, that was probably one of the top 2 or 3 moments of my long, illustrious Mets career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was Wilmer's home run. I still can't believe that happened. I mean, the whole thing was unbelievable enough before he did that. I remember sitting in the press box, one of those moments you can't quite process. Another one of those moments, Jay, correct me if this wasn't in August, but you guys went to Philly pretty soon after that, and that's when David came back and hit the home run. Is that right?
Yeah.
August the 5th. Yeah. That was another one of those moments that you couldn't quite. That and the Wilmer home run stick out is almost similar where you're going, no. And Jay, actually, we're sitting next to each other in the Philly press box that night when David came back and hit that home run. Just my Daily News seat happened to be right there by the PR seat. And I remember that you were sort of like in awe, like when that ball went over David's ball went over the left field bench.
Before that, we had just come back from a trip to Colorado on a Sunday. That Monday, I'm sitting in Terry's office. David comes in. Skip, grab me wrong. Hey, Terry, you don't have to play me. Team is doing well enough. You don't need to play me. And I said, you're back and forth, David. That's what it is. Hits a home run his first time up to left field. But the night before, he greeted us at 4 o'clock in the morning in full uniform, handing out homemade chocolate chip Edmund cookies. Because he said to me, the guys might have forgotten who I am. I want to go out and show them I still care about them. I want to be part of the team. To me, that was David Wright in a nutshell, those two segments.
Terry, Jay, Is that the difference between the 2015 Mets and the 80s Mets? Were they handing out cookies at 4 a.m. in 86, or was it something else?
No, I think we might have been something a little bit stronger, but he was in full uniform. He had his spikes on, and I got to admit, I had 3 cookies, like 3:30 in the morning. I just got back from Colorado. And he's here. I mean, that was him. And then the next night, he sits in Terry's office and said, hey, you don't really need to play me. I don't need to play. I'll sit about 5th, 6th, 7th. I'll pinch it, whatever you want me to do. Am I right, Terry?
You're right. Absolutely right. But, I will tell you that I look back at it, and we were in the hunt. We weren't, we obviously weren't in first place, but we were in the hunt. But when I started seeing all these different guys coming in that locker room, and I would see the faces of the other guys in the locker room, they're like, holy cow, the front office, they must think we got a shot here. We must be better than what everybody thinks. And so all of a sudden, I just started seeing a different attitude, even during the games. There were nights, of course, Wilmer's probably started with Wilmer's home run, where they just said, hey, we can win we're going to win every night. And that attitude just spread throughout the entire team, and it didn't matter who you played. And that's why when David came in, when he first came back that day in Philly, where he said, look, hey, Skip, you don't have to play me. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. We're playing good, but, you're a star. I didn't say that. I just said, well, guess what? You're hitting third. We're really happy to have you back. So, but I just remember the most unbelievable attitude change, which changes the expression of the players, which changed how they prepared. It became, because we had so many, veteran major leaguers in the clubhouse, guys who'd won. Juan Uribe, he already won a world championship.
Ellie Johnson was a big one.
Yeah, and the entire, and that's the thing I remember about going into August was, we walked out of that field, guys, and we were standing a little taller than we had the month before.
Well, Terry,
you got like Tyler Clifford.
Yeah,
Tyler Clifford.
It was a whole makeup of the team. And Terry, you had said, and we're going to play that finale, just those highlights, Marsh. If you could pull up August the 2nd, and that's when you swept the Nationals. And after that series, Terry, you said pretty much what you just emphasized. Quote from you: this is a different club than it was a week ago. These guys are playing with a lot of confidence, and we're a legitimate team. And it really started after that trade deadline. The moves were made, and then that great series against Washington. So I know, Terry, you haven't probably seen this in 10 years. So we're gonna play you now what happened on that finale against Washington when the team really started to take off. So Marsh, let's go to that right now.
The Mets looking to sweep the Nationals and draw even with Washington atop the NL East. That's Noah Syndergaard fresh off 8 shutout innings against the Padres on Tuesday. In the first inning, though, he had to face Anthony Rendon.
There's a shot headed right out our way, off the fence just below us in left center. Bounces past Cespedes. That'll be a double. Was this over the line? That's a home run, boys. Yeah, that's a home run. Yep. And Rendon has given Washington an early 1-0 lead.
Here's Ruben Tejada. 0-2 is cracked right back to the mound. Zimmerman plucks it out of the air. That ball was a dart heading to center field, and somehow Zimmerman popped that glove up in the air, got it in the web.
2 down, back to the top of the order now for Granderson. Granderson with a drive, deep right. It is gone! A 2-run homer as Citi Field explodes and the Mets take the lead.
Here's Murphy. He creams it to right. There it goes. Are you kidding? It's gone again. 3-1 New York. Back-to-back pitches into an exploding upper deck. Here's the pitch. Swinging a base hit into left. It's a single for Cespedes. His first hit as a Met.
But we have not heard a sound in Flushing like this since at least 2008, and it's well past due.
With a runner on, 2 out, here's the pitch. A swing, high fly ball, deep right field, at the track end of the corner. Looking up Harper, it is gone! 3 home runs in a stretch of 5 pitches. Duda's got 9 homers in his last 8 games. The Mets lead Washington 5-1.
We haven't seen this kind of power output in years.
top of the 8th. 2-2 to Bryce Harper. The 2-2 pitch. Swung on and missed, strike 3. He got him with a fastball at 99 miles an hour. Probably the last pitch he throws tonight, and he makes it the hardest he's thrown all game.
The new pitcher for the Mets is one of their recent acquisitions, veteran right-hander Tyler Clippard.
Swinging a high fly ball to left center. That should end it. Into the gap, Cespedes with Lagares. Lagares makes the catch. Put it in the books.
The Mets sweep the Nationals in a 3-game series at home for the first time since Citi Field opened in 2009. Syndergaard turns in his second consecutive performance with 8 innings, 9 strikeouts, and no walks. The victory improves his record to 6-5 on the season. Tyler Clippard locks down his first save in a Mets uniform, and it comes against his former team. The Mets have won 5 of their last 7 and are tied with the Nationals for first place.
That was fun to watch. A lot of excitement.
I will tell you, John, a lot of times I'm asked, what's the loudest game I've ever been at? Until David hit the home run in the World Series, that might be the loudest I've ever heard a crowd at Citi Field.
That's cool. I think Howie made a really good point in that call that we just heard about how it's been a while since we've heard that at Citi Field. You guys, Terry and Jay, I remember at least as well as I do, just there was a quiet period there, right? Where team wasn't winning at the major league level. It was taking a few years to develop, and Citi Field wasn't always the most energetic place for those. I'm talking 11, 12, 13. So I remember that sense of a build-up. The prospects are coming, Darno and Syndergaard and Harvey and these guys, it's kind of building. But then in a night like that, it sort of exploded, right? And we've been waiting a couple years.
Right.
Yeah, no question. That was it. And the Friday night game too, when Wilmer hit the home run in the 12th inning, it was pretty loud. It was really loud that whole series, the whole series.
But it led to an amazing August. I mean, the team went 20-8, which was an amazing month to have, and of course it was bolstered by the return of the captain, and that was something everyone was waiting for. So we'll play the second clip that we have today, and that is that magic day that the return of David Wright took place on August the 24th. So Marsh, why don't we pull that up and let everybody take a look at it.
It seems like the perfect conditions for David to make his return. A ballpark where he's hit more home runs than any visiting player. A left-hand pitcher. He's .341 lifetime against lefties.
He hits one to deep left field. That is gone. David Wright brings himself back into the lineup with thunder. Into the second deck. We have seen this act before. David Wright, first at bat, coming back from injury at Citizens Bank Park, and he clubs one.
Unbelievable. Here's Lagares, who popped up his first time up.
That's hit in the air to deep left field, right down the line, headed toward the seats, and it's out of here! Juan Lagares with a home run. His 5th home run of the year. So the Mets fighting their way back with a couple of home runs. There have been 4 home runs hit in the first 3 innings of this game. It's 4-2 Philadelphia.
And this is playing like the Citizens Bank Park bandbox we remember. Here's Flores.
Flores drives one deep left field, headed toward the wall. It's out of here! Wilmer Flores with a line drive, 2-run homer. And the Mets hit their 3rd home run of the night to creep back closer again. It's now 7-4 Philadelphia.
I thought we left Coors Field.
Number 13 for Flores.
So each team has now hit 3 home runs in this game.
Well, it's a different ball club here, Gary. This new New York Mets ball club, they can slug it with you if you want to slug it once in a while. They're not going to do it every night, but every once in a while they can do it, and they've done it so far to creep back into this game.
Well, here's Darno.
Darno hits one deep to left center field. Back goes Herrera. He takes a look, and it's out of here! Onto the concourse. Back-to-back home runs from Flores and Darno. And now it's 7-5. Number 8 for d'Arnaud, and that was crushed. Home run derby at Citizens Bank Park.
This is almost like the hitters are coming up and saying who can hit the longest home run here tonight.
Flores now with 51 RBIs for the year after his home run in the 4th.
And he hits this one deep to left field. That heads toward the seats. It's out of here! And the Mets take the lead! Wilmer Flores, a 3-run homer, his second of the night. And it's 8-7 New York. Like bombs bursting in air, the Mets have become a powerhouse. Second time in this road trip they've hit 5 home runs in a game.
Here's Kadire, who's doubled
Twice, and he drives one deep to left. Back goes Ashley looking up, and it's out of here! The Mets' 6th home run of the night. Michael Kadire with number 9, and it's 9-7 Mets. On the night that his buddy returns from the disabled list, Michael Kadire goes off. His 3rd extra base hit of the night. And the Mets now just 1 home run shy of a club record. They've hit 6 home runs tonight and lead 9-7.
I'll tell you, I'm too old, but occasionally you get these kind of games where the dugout, the feeling in that dugout is almost palpable up here in the booth.
Here's Murphy, who doubled and scored in the 5th, 1 for 3 on the night.
Murphy drives one to deep right center field, hit it toward the wall. That ball is out of here! Daniel Murphy with the record tire, the Mets' 7th home run of the night. A 2-run shot for Murphy, and it's lucky 11-7 New York. 10 years after they set the club record in the same ballpark, with David Wright being the one constant, the Mets have hit 7 home runs in a game for the 2nd time in their history.
Well, they lead the Sire baseball in high fives tonight.
19 hits for the Mets tonight.
Cespedes drives one deep left field. That ball is out of here! A record-setting night for the New York Mets. Yoenis Cespedes puts on the icing with a 2-run homer, the Mets' 8th home run of the night, a new Mets club record.
A night to remember for the New York Mets. 8 home runs, a new franchise record. 15 extra base hits, a new franchise record. And a 16-7 lead. So the Phillies are down to their final out. Dominic Brown is up. And Brown hits it out to left. Cespedes is there, and that'll do it. A record-setting night for the New York Mets. As they bombard the Phillies, they mark David Wright's return to action with a franchise record 8 home runs as they slaughter the Phillies 16-7.
What a way to bring the captain back. What a night.
Incredible.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I remember obviously there's a lot of talk about David's homer. I forgot we hit so many that night, but that was, again, that's the atmosphere in the dugout. Just like they said, it was one of those crazy games that you have.
It was infectious and broke the team record for home runs in a game. And what a magical night it was. It's great to reminisce. And then, of course, the team continued and had a wonderful August. So it's great to look back at these memories of August 2015. It still doesn't seem like 10 years ago, does it, guys?
No, it doesn't.
Nothing ever does that was 10 years ago.
That is true.
I have a quick question for you, Terry, on that. I know because I was sitting next to Jay, how both on the David home run, like I said before, both you and I, Jay, were like, whoa, I can't even believe that happened. What were you? Was it similar for you in the dugout?
Yeah,
when that clears
if you saw the clip, you see Murph was he didn't have his helmet on, but he was kind of in the dugout. And when David hit the homer, there's a picture of Murph like walking towards where the steps are going down and congratulate him. And that's when he looked at me and he goes, "Of course he hit a home run. What would you expect out of this guy?" Yeah, the captain. Yeah, and the captain's back, and
yep.
And again, just all those little things. It just sends a wave of excitement through the dugout there. Everybody wants to participate. And that was one of the nights everybody did participate. If you didn't hit a homer, you probably got fined when the game was over. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, we'll be back next month to look at September, which was a wonderful month. And, of course, the Mets clinched the NL East title. So we'll take a look at that in September as well. Always a pleasure to have our friends with us. Andy, thank you so much for participating in the second month of our look back of 2015. Appreciate that.
My pleasure. What a honor to sit with these two Met legends and look at a great season, and I mean that.
Yes.
Thank you, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, guys. All right. We'll be back right after this. A great month for the New York Mets. August 2015, part of the magical season that Terry Collins led to the National League Championship. Well, T2T founder Frank Siller recently got together with Hollywood legend, the one and only Sylvester Stallone, to discuss Stallone's involvement with the foundation, another huge name aligning with T2T. So let's go to that right now.
Wow. Lo and behold.
I know that walk anywhere.
Welcome to the set of Tulsa King. I'm privileged to see you here.
Oh my God, what a treat.
Likewise.
Can't thank you enough for being here on your set. My goodness.
Welcome to the bar at Tulsa King.
You know, when I first met you, you said to me that you wanted to help out.
Whenever we can take our ability to bring focus onto what your cause is, it's an honor to be chosen to do this for you.
What draws you to help our American heroes?
The least we can do, or people that have the means, is contribute to these incredible people that don't get any recognition at all, but they're the real heroes. We're kind of movie heroes. They make us. We're fictional. They're real.
If any first responder or Gold Star widow has someone die in the line of duty and they leave a young family behind, we pay every mortgage off in America.
Which is such a humane thing to do, to take care of the people that have taken care of us.
Exactly. It's simple.
It's really simple math.
This coming year, we're building a special 100 smart homes for the catastrophically injured service members and first responders.
Stuff that you take for granted that they can't do, and now they can.
And over the last 2 years, we've taken over 10,000 homeless veterans off the streets. We get them all the comprehensive services they need to assimilate back into society.
Every one of them deserves a home and to feel safe, considering what they've contributed to this country's safety and future.
People know that when they make a donation, their money is gonna go to these heroes.
True. It's like guaranteed in the bank. And everyone, this is money well spent, and you know exactly where it's going, into these people's lives.
Well, thank you very much.
And keep punching.
Thank you. God bless.
I'm Sylvester Stallone. Please donate $11 a month at t2t.org.
Before we go, we want to remind you to check out Amazing Conversations with Jay Horwitz, a New York Mets podcast hosted by the foremost Mets historian. Each week, Jay brings on guests from all eras in Mets history. Amazing Conversations with Jay Horwitz, who just celebrated his 80th birthday, available now on all podcast platforms or on YouTube. And you can also find us on YouTube. We have lots of content up there. All of the shows are archived. We have clips, highlights from each one of the shows. So if you'd like to check us out on our YouTube channel, just go to youtube.com/The Terry Collins Show. Please like and subscribe. And I know you'll enjoy it because when you take a look at those archives and the amount of guests that we've had over the last 2 seasons, and of course the ones coming up for this season, you'll be entertained and you'll be able to see all of this content on our YouTube channel. But if you prefer the traditional way of listening to your podcast, and that's on an audio platform, we are there as well each and every week. So whether it's Apple or Spotify or iHeart or Odyssey, just subscribe to the Terry Collins Show there and give us a like and a 4-star review if you can. I want to thank our creative director, Marsh, and to our researcher, Dominic DiBiase. For Terry Collins, this is John Arezzi. We'll see you next time.